Welcome to Malpractice Podcast.
Are you ready to get started?
I think it was my turn, but I am
you
ready.
You do it. No, you go.
No. Are we ready to be started?
Are we I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm Sid.
Don't worry.
No, I'm not Sid. I'm Jess.
You were like, gotta introduce myself.
I was like really thinking like introduce yourself, and I introduced
You introduced
myself
yourself as me,
you,
which
like
is
an
fine.
idiot.
I mean, I'm fine with it.
I'm a red-headed goddess.
Oh my god, a green goddess. Like the dressing. So, I want to start with the fact that someone... Are we allowed to say his name?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, friend of the podcast, Grant, just sent us a text as we were setting up to record that said he was cackling in Kroger because he liked our podcast so much.
And we love a cackle. We do.
I love to see someone cackling is authentically...
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah,
It's the most beautiful thing. Because someone who is ready to like laugh so hard they're cackling, I fully understand it.
Yeah, I love it.
I have a bit of a cackle, I think.
Well, it was funny because Grant texted me originally and somebody else who was not you and was like, hey, I love this episode. I'm cackling, right? And I was like, that's not Sydney's number.
Because you didn't have the number saved?
Yeah, no, I didn't have it. So I was like, that's
stranger
not her.
number.
And then that Sydney was like, hey, wrong Sydney, I think. And I was like, hey, Sydney. Hey, wrong Sydney.
Hey, girl, you are the wrong one.
You are the wrong Sydney.
Can't be the right one.
But hi.
Hi.
New Sydney.
Hi.
Hi.
You had an anniversary this weekend.
I did.
You're a
I know
one-year
people
kitten.
are like, you just got married. No, I didn't. Been married. Got married last year.
Got a COVID wedding and then a real wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. I got a real wedding, and then I had a party.
Yeah, good. What'd you guys do for your anniversary?
We just like went out to eat at a cool restaurant we know, but it was fun. It was nice. It was like, wow, a whole year. Like, that's crazy. It went so fast.
That is crazy. It does not feel like it's been a year since y'all got married.
I know. It feels like it was a month ago.
Because it was. The second time, part 2. It was my mom's birthday this weekend.
I know. I texted her.
She's the best, and it was her birthday.
Yes.
Shout out, Mom.
She's the queen.
Okay, we went to a restaurant, and while we were there, we saw these people that I used to babysit for. And it made me think, maybe we've talked about...
Were you in Nacogdoches?
Yeah.
Ew. Continue.
Yeah, right.
Ew, David.
Unless you're in Nacogdoches listening, then please, whatever. Okay.
I mean, if you're in Nacogdoches, you know.
You know what the vibe is.
Nothing we're saying is a lie.
You know it's vaguely you. Nacogdoches, for our international listeners, is a small town in East Texas that is you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Okay. So, how old were you the first time you babysat someone?
Probably like 10.
Do you recognize how wild it is to leave your child with a 10-year-old?
Dude.
That's like leaving a dog to watch a horse and being like, take care of this horse.
Well, I don't know.
It's the same. A 10-year-old is not responsible.
I don't know about that. I do think a 10-year-old's not responsible.
I watched an infant when I was like 12.
Oh, that's too small. I watched like a 4-year-old. They were fine.
Okay, right. But also there's a 6-year age, whatever. Anyway, maybe you're fine. But I watched an infant when I think I was like 12.
I mean...
No, it's not okay.
In some time periods, you would have already had an infant of your own at that age.
At 12?
Yes.
I'm on my 4th husband at 12 years old.
You got to get things done quick because you don't live that long in those times.
Yeah, well, there was Jebediah, and then the third one was, oh God, he only lived to the ripe age of 10. What was his name?
I thought you were naming people you babysat. I was like, who in Nacogdoches named their kid Jebediah?
No, I'm pretending like we're way back.
Gotcha. I'm with you now.
You're on my train.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, so these people that we saw let me babysit their child when I was like 12.
Mm-hmm.
And the baby was an infant, but it reminded me of this story when I was like maybe 16 or 17, I was babysitting these two kids that were like 10 years old each, right? And I was at their house and they asked me to make them corn dogs. And I was like, hell yeah, I can microwave a corn dog. Dope.
Dope. Big dope. Big dope energy.
Big dope energy microwaving corn dogs. And I'm like, what's up, girls? I can make you a corn dog. So, and I'm standing at the kitchen window and I see a man walk by the kitchen window.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. Bye-bye, girls. See you later.
No, correct. So I screamed at them. We went and locked every door. Mm-hmm. And this man is like, I'm watching him from different rooms. I'm watching him like walk around the house several times.
What?
Right? So I'm freaking out. I'm like, I have to be responsible for these two 10-year-olds. I was like 16 or 17. I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, we're all going to die here today.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I start calling the parents. And I'm like, hi, is someone supposed to be at your house? And they're like, what? And I'm like, no. Like, is someone here to whatever? And the mom is like, I don't know of anything like that. I'm going to leave my job and come back because I'm scared.
As you should. Come now.
And I was like on the phone with her. She was like, maybe you should call the police. So I hang up and call the police.
Yes.
And I'm like on the phone with the police. And I'm like, I'm babysitting. There's a strange man outside of the house, blah, blah, right? And the police are like, okay, we'll send a squad car person. Whatever.
We'll send a steed over is what I thought you were going to say for some reason.
We'll send an officer? Why couldn't I think of the word office? Whatever.
We'll send something. Something's coming.
Someone's going to be there. And I was like, okay, helpful. So the police get there before the mom does. And you see them outside. I open the front door and they're talking to the Orkin man. Like the bug spraying guy.
Oh.
He was walking around the house because he was spraying the house for bug, like the outside of the house for bugs.
Well, the mom should have known that.
The husband scheduled it, so she didn't know.
Well, you know what? That is very mature of you.
Thank you.
To handle it in that way, because I would have been like, bye-bye, girls. See you later.
I'm out. I have a license. I can drive.
I probably would have taken them both in the car and been like, we gotta go.
Literally, I was so scared, but then he kept walking around the house. So I was like, well, he's probably going to catch us if we go outside. Anyway.
He's going to catch us.
The fact of the matter was, I called the police on the Orkin man.
That's fine.
And everything's fine.
Everyone needs to know what you're capable of at any moment.
Yeah, you just while out first and ask questions later.
We've already yes, correct. Or don't ask any questions. Be like, I don't know.
Couldn't have been me.
I don't know you.
Wasn't there.
I'm not trying to die.
No, never trying to die.
You did garden tings.
I did. Me and my mom canned some things. Me and my grandma canned some things. My family is from the Laura Ingalls Wilder period.
Correct.
And I'm from the Little House on the Prairie. And so
You literally are.
Correct. We regularly can things like pickles and we did
pickled okra.
Pickled okra.
That is my shit. Your mom's pickled okra.
My mom makes very good pickled okra. Get some at your local grocery store. You can't.
Imagine.
It's exclusive. She makes tomato basil soup that will knock your literal socks off. Anyway, so we did a bunch of canning and stuff. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, have you seen the movie American Pickle?
I'm gonna Google it right now.
Okay, I watched it on a plane, and the premise is this old man, this Russian Jewish guy, comes to America, starts working at a pickle factory, falls in a vat of pickle brine.
No, I've never seen this. 100%.
Gets perfectly preserved there for 100 years. It's like pretty new. So he comes back and Seth Rogen is his grandson.
The pickled man.
And he lives in like Brooklyn. He's like a Jewish hipster in Brooklyn. And
I saw a picture when I Googled it.
Who is also Seth Rogen. Okay, honestly, it's pretty funny.
I love how you know the names of things. I never know the name. I literally put on the list to mention, like, we watched this movie, Michael Scott from The Office.
Okay.
Which is not his name.
Just Steve Carell. Go on.
Stars in it, and I cannot... it's like a political movie. It's so good.
Let me just be clear. You wrote it down on the list. Mm-hmm. to talk about.
I don't know the name.
Knowing that you didn't know the name.
Could have Googled it, said, nah, but that shit is bombastic.
Is it Anchorman?
I think it's irresistible.
Okay. He looks so good. First of all, Steve Carell looks so good with a beard.
Yeah.
He's a snack with a beard.
He's like an hors d'oeuvre.
Is that... Okay, fair enough.
What is it that it's like you are literally just taking one spoonful of a bite?
That's like an hors d'oeuvre, right? Like hors d'oeuvres are always little. It's like a pig in a blanket, and you're like, dope.
Yes, one single pig in a blanket.
And then they give you like, okay, first of all, the problem that I have with hors d'oeuvres, specifically like past hors d'oeuvres, is like you're at a wedding or some shit, right? Guy's walking around with like a tray full of pigs in a blanket or whatever. And he leaves you with like a stick and a napkin, and you're like,
yeah.
So what do I do with this now?
Yeah. That happens too many times.
Make trash cans available.
Just hand out also tiny trash cans.
Yeah. But then you have to hold a trash can.
And then you just hold your tiny trash can.
But then you find like 6 other people who also have their sticks, and you're like, here, give me your sticks. I'll go find somewhere to throw it away. That's what I do.
You make friends.
You know I do.
You clean up.
I don't think we introduced ourselves. We didn't introduce the show.
This is Malpractice.
We're Malpractice Podcast. And we're a show.
We are a podcast about hors d'oeuvres and movies.
We talk about hors d'oeuvres. We talk about Steve Carell's facial hair.
I love.
If you like those things.
I didn't know his name until today, but I love him.
If you like those things and you're this far in.
You're in the right place.
You're among friends here, and this is a judgment-free zone.
Well, that's not true.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
You just lied to them. This is a judgmental zone.
We will judge you, but we'll be funny about it.
Yeah, we judge ourselves.
I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
Really. And that's all you can ask.
That's all you can do.
That's all you can ask from us. Don't ask anymore.
Why are you getting mad?
Okay, I don't know. Okay. I am so interested in what you're going to talk about today. And the reason for that is...
I am scared.
You told me what the title was.
Do you like my dance?
I love it. Also, I just burped really loud, I'm pretty sure, into the microphone.
Oh, I didn't hear you, but I might have been dancing, which obviously closes my ears.
Sure. It's like when you have to get directions for something and you like turn the radio down because you're like,
oh,
I can't
1,000%.
see if the radio's this loud.
I do that all the time, and I think about it every time I do it. I'm like, why are you doing this?
Why are you like this?
Why are you the way that you are?
I do the same thing. Anyway, so
okay, good.
You told me the title of this, and I'm so interested, and I want you to get started because I want to know everything about whatever is going on here.
Dude, this is fucking crazy. So I'm kind of taking a page out of a Sydney book.
Oh?
This is like a crimey medical episode, kind of. It's like...
Okay.
It's the drama around Teflon. And this episode has corruption, hiding wrongdoing, the legal system, which I love.
You love that.
And it's basically like a David and Goliath story where Goliath gets away with being trashed for like a really long time, and Goliath negatively affects the health of a large group of people and doesn't give a fuck about it.
Okay, so pretty much everything we cover on this podcast.
Yeah, so these are a few of our favorite things.
Literally.
It's a wild story. So I actually heard about it from a movie, Dark Waters, and I thought it wasn't real.
Okay.
But it actually is. And I watched this movie like in horror thinking like, that is a crazy made up bullshit from the nightmare story. And I Googled it, and it is a accurate depiction of what happened in real life.
Oh no.
It's kind of like Radium Girls, to be honest. So if you think about that for a second and like panic.
I just made a really weird sound with my throat, but it's because I took a deep breath in like a startled way. And I think that the reason for that is that Radium Girls shocked me to my literal core. And I ain't ready for another one. Another one.
Yeah, like Radium Girls is basically when a company knew that they were like poisoning people.
Yeah, if you haven't heard our Radium Girls episode, go listen to it because it's crazy. And it ends up with like company executives like stealing bodies so that no one knows they were doing the wrong thing. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And this is like a more recent version of that.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Do you know what Teflon is?
Honestly, I just know that it's used to like coat pans, right?
It's like, yeah, kind of. Yeah, absolutely. So it's low-key like fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the name of a chemical, and it's the trademark name for that chemical, which is I don't know why I put the name of things in the episodes, because you know that I can't read. Polytetrafluoroethanol.
Ethylene. You were so close.
Ethylene. Hey, that was pretty close.
That was pretty good. You got down to the end and you were like, I'm out.
Yeah, I was like, ugh. Which is like PTFE.
Okay. PTFE.
It's a tough synthetic resin used to coat nonstick cooking utensils, and also like and it's also hydrophobic, which means it cannot get wet by water. So it's like resistant to water. It's used on pots and pans. Like usually they're our favorite pots and pans because it makes them easy to use and easy to clean. And it's also used to seal things. Like basically it's like cool chemical science, right?
What's up, science?
It was first discovered by a company called Dupont in 1938. Specifically, this chemist named Roy Plunkett while he was working in New Jersey for Dupont. So he was trying to make this new, here I go again.
You can do it.
Chlorofluorocarbon.
Nice.
Refrigerant. And bada bing, he created a pressured bottle that stopped the flow of oxygen, which stopped weight in the bottle. And he was kind of like, what the fuck? So then Plunkett sawed the bottle apart and found that the bottle was coated on the inside with this waxy white material that was slippery. And it was his, it was this like polymerized. Ethofluoral, whatever. This chemical, it was that shit. And then they registered the trademark on that.
Okay. It makes sense that it's hydrophobic because that's the reason that like eggs and things don't stick to a coated pan. However, I will say this is not scientific, but a cast iron skillet is like the best thing to cook anything in, period.
Yep. And when we get done with this, you'll feel that even stronger.
Maybe that's just, I will. Oh God. They're a pain in the ass to clean, but honestly,
they're better.
Non-stick shit is so scary, right? Because sometimes it like flakes off when you're cooking with it.
Just wait a second. Okay, so by 1948, DuPont, which is renamed Dow DuPont after a 2017 merger with Dow Chemical Company, because they got in a lot of trouble. Anyway, which founded this other company, Kinetic Chemicals, partnered with GM and started producing over 2 million pounds of this substance that guy had discovered per year for its use in the nonstick cookware and waterproof clothing and furniture and food packaging and self-cleaning ovens, airplanes, and cars.
Okay, so everything.
So they started making super fucking bank on their discovery, and they began producing it in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and that's where our story begins.
Oh, Lord.
Basically, this is what happens. Smooth transition.
We're not even pretending like we know how to do transitions anymore. We're just like, wrote it in. Smooth transition.
Smooth transition. The public knowledge of this awful situation starts with this one farmer, Wilbur Tennant. Okay. He is a sweet angel hero who was really wronged in this entire thing, and I will fight somebody for Wilbur. So,
Wilbur, what's up?
Don't fuck with Wilbur. So, Wilbur grew up around this family farm he had, and it was his mom's grandfather's originally and been passed down to him. So, he, like, knew his farm. He knew the land. He knew how to take care of his cows.
Yeah.
He knew, like, what the water looked like. He knew everything about this place. In 1998, Wilbur complained about something crazy happening to his cows. So they were dying, like a lot of them were dying, like a crazy amount. In less than 2 years, he lost at least 100 calves and more than 50 cows. And he wasn't sure why it was happening. He was feeding his cows a regular amount and they were getting skinnier and skinnier.
Oh my God.
So they were also turning like super aggressive, like charging at him and trying to kick him. And he, like, when you raise cows, like, as someone, you know, from Laura Ingalls Wilder place, you know, like, they're, like, they, like, love you. Like, you take care of them.
They're docile, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know about anybody else, but I'm scared of cows. Like, I do not fuck with cows.
My dad's cows will straight up walk up to you and they, like, want their heads to be scratched. Like, they want you to pet them. They're like a giant dog.
But they're big and I get scared. Anything that is...
Not unfair.
Approaching the size of a moose... No.
You must be this short to talk to Jessica.
Tiny to talk to me.
Correct.
Yeah. So he, like, knew his cows and they were, like, charging at him and being really crazy. And he was like, what is going on? In addition to that, and they were trying to kick him, which, can you imagine how much that hurt?
I can.
So, in addition to that, he was noticing his creek water, the water the cows drank from, was, like, bubbling, had foam on it, and started smelling rotten.
Ooh.
Right before this... He was going through another situation in which his brother, who has worked at this company plant, was like really sick and no doctor could figure out what was wrong with him.
Ruh-roh.
So anyway, He called someone, right? Because his livelihood is literally dying in front of him and his brother is sick. So he called the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources because he suspected the water, and the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection, and they didn't respond to him. And a vet wouldn't even come out and look at his cows, according to him.
Wilbur.
I know, but you know what Wilbur did? Wilbur was like, fuck you, vet. I'll do my own autopsy because I'm from these parts.
Good.
So he was cutting open his cows when they died and looking at their organs. And their organs, he was noticing, like, things that were wrong. Inside, he was seeing tumors. He was seeing, like,
oh my God,
yellowing of organ. He knew something was, he knew.
Yeah.
So he called this lawyer.
Wilbur is a genius.
I know.
Yeah.
So he called this lawyer, Rob Billett. And Rob's grandmother knew Wilbur, and Wilbur mentioned that when he made his phone call. So Rob agreed to meet with him. He's like, okay, I'll meet with you.
Mm-hmm.
He also sent Rob, like, video recording of the foam I was talking about with the crusty film on top. He was, like, laser focused on the water as being the source of this issue. Wilbur's family lived in, like, Parksburg, West Virginia.
Uh-oh.
Does that ring a bell from, like, 3 seconds ago?
This is Dupont Chemical, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the agreement of Bob, no, that's not his name, Rob, to come into Wilbur's house reveals this huge scandal because then Rob gets super involved. So remember Wilbur's brother?
The sick one?
Yeah, the sick one. Wilbur had actually sold a portion of his original farmland to that chemical company that his brother was working for. The chemical company was using that land as a dumping site for sludge from the factory. Basically, it was like a chemical landfill. The sludge was seeping into the water supply.
Ooh.
And one of Wilbur's videos he made, because he was a home video expert, he would point it at the edge of the creek that was obviously contaminated with, like, all the bubbles and stuff, and where there was this industrial pipe. And from the pipe came the froth that was settling on top of the water.
Oh, my God.
That company that bought the land were using it as they told the family they were going to use it as an unlined dumping site, but designed for the disposal of non-hazardous waste like office paper and everyday trash. Paper is not going to froth.
Right.
And yeah, so the company that we are talking about is Dupont.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they told them it was non-hazardous waste, and they were really dumping, like...
sludge.
Okay, tell me more.
Yes.
Wait, tell me more about that.
Okay, so not only did Wilbur knew that he saw the water, right? There was like a film. You can see, when water is contaminated, you can see like if oil's on water, whatever. He also started noticing like minnows in the water were like belly up. Like fish were dying. Yes.
Oh my God.
He wasn't seeing any more fish in the pond.
Okay.
Right. So Wilbur is not an idiot, as he has proven. He put two and two together, and he was like, hey, fuck your company. So he told Rob, who ended up coming to the farm and seeing what he's talking about.
Rob is the lawyer.
Rob is the lawyer. Right now we have the brother and Wilbur and Rob.
Okay.
Rob is not Bob. Bob is nobody.
Okay.
So Rob was like working on it, but it didn't move fast enough. So then Wilbur starts blaming Dupont openly, like around town.
Uh-oh, Wilbur.
He even brings it up to Dupont. He's like, y'all are doing some shit around here and you're killing my cows. Dupont turns the tables on him and basically starts slandering his farming practices, saying that they wouldn't be dying if he was taking proper care of them. And as someone from Laura Ingalls Wilder's time, you know that's fucking rude.
This is so rude. Y'all, my dad is a rancher. And if somebody said that to him, first of all, I think my dad would be pissed, number one.
Yeah.
But also, he would have his feelings hurt.
Right.
Because, it's like you're animals. You're taking care of them. And
right. And also, they owned that plant, and they were like a dominating force in the town's economy and workforce. So then pretty much all of his friends started to turn on him when he started blaming Dupont.
That sucks.
Right? So he has a sick brother, he's losing his cattle, and now he's losing his friends and community. And shit just keeps getting worse as they do before they get better.
When it rains, it pours. This poor man.
I know.
It's making me sad. Wilbur. But this is what always happens to
him.
whistleblowers. Like,
yes.
Especially if you're whistleblowing on the main source of employment in a small town. Like, the same thing happened to the Radium Girls.
Yep. Exactly.
Whistleblowers.
But you know what? I love Wilbur. Wilbur had a family. He had, like, a reason not to say something because he needed them.
Yeah.
But he was like, no, something is really wrong. Like, something is really wrong. And, like, I'm not going to not say something.
Yeah.
So, Let's talk about DuPont. So DuPont for
Oy.
decades was hiding the lethal dangers of a chemical used in making Teflon. Shortened, it's called the PFOA, which is I don't know. It's
No, you're so close.
go
Perfluorooctanoic
acid. Yeah. That's also known as C8.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm going to talk about it for the rest
Perfect.
of this time. And DuPont poured huge amounts of the substance into the waterways.
Ooh.
The chemical was this like fine powdery white compound that escapes also into the air. So it has been dubbed a forever chemical because it doesn't degrade. Instead, it bioaccumulates, which means it just builds up in people's blood over time.
Oh.
The assumption is that there's about 90% of the world's population that has that in their blood right now. Yeah, 90% of the world's population
90%?
and 98% of America's population.
Whoa. Who knew about this?
Robin Wilbur, that's who.
I did not know. Robin Wilbur, what?
Yeah. So Rob Billet, that's the lawyer, that's Wilbur's friend.
Yeah.
He stayed with the lawsuit, uncovering as much as he could for years in order to get people what they were due. Through a medical panel, a 7-year study, and analysis project, and released findings, he legally forced DuPont to reveal internal documents, and oh my God, they turned over tens of thousands of pages of internal documents, and buried in those pages were the answers Rob needed, and he found them. He went through over tens of thousands of papers from DuPont because when he got his discovery like approved, they just sent him every piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because they didn't think he would probably go through all of it.
They didn't want him to. Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, first of all, somebody sending you tens of thousands of pages and you're just reading them like real petty? You're reading them and you're like, bitches didn't think I'd go through all these pages, did you?
Bitches didn't think, but I did. DuPont had like internal documents in these pages where they expressed concern for the health of the tenants' livestock that were drinking the water. They had been studying the water for years, and they found all kinds of toxic effects, but they didn't tell any of the people that it impacted or the government regulators that they found it. They just hid it.
This is kind of like when you were talking shit about someone and you screenshot a text they send you and you send it to them. Mm-hmm. That's what DuPont just did. Mm-hmm. They sent him the receipts.
They literally did, but they didn't think... I mean, I will say the movie has been basically said that it's pretty accurate, but there's also a documentary on Netflix that you can watch too.
Oh.
And this guy, Rob, he wrote a book about it. And he's been like interviewed several times. So they didn't think that he was going to go through this boxes and boxes. I mean, it's like, can you imagine what tens of thousands of papers looks like in boxes?
No, I literally can't. The Netflix documentary is called The Devil We Know. Mm-hmm. Is that the one? Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to watch that now. This is crazy. Okay, keep going.
It's nuts. So by 2003, DuPont had dispersed about 2.5 million pounds of C8. That's C8. From the Washington Works plant into the mid-Ohio River Valley area.
Oh my God.
They also had disposal practices where, now I will say, this was like in the beginning of disposal practices for chemicals, like the government wasn't really regulating this, right? So at first, they could get away with anything. So their practices were literally to bury toxic waste drums along the banks of the river.
Oh my Lord.
Or to like drop them into the ocean. And we know they dropped them in the ocean because fishermen, there was like a scandal where a fisherman pulled one up with his net.
Okay, first of all, like the government wasn't regulating it at this point. And to me, this is the reason, along with the fact that people don't put their shopping carts back, is the reason that we can't regulate ourselves.
Literally.
You have to have regulations because people just do crazy shit. They're like, I'll just dump this in the ocean. Like, you know that's not okay.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So the runoff that we talked about into that creek for the cows and like other runoff, right? And then the poison water has been linked to different diseases. Mm-hmm. Specifically, it affected the animals, remember the cows, and the humans near the factory since it seeped into the water via pipes that actually fed into the Ohio River and ran off the landfill, which drained and had run off into drinking supply.
Oh.
In the discovery, there were doctors who were treating victims of this chemical assault. That's like trademarked malpractice podcast. That's what I think we should call this, chemical assault.
Okay.
And they didn't know the exposure of the history of their patients. So, like, some forms of cancer are tied back to C8 exposure. But the doctors didn't know, because the people didn't know that they had C8 in their system. So they didn't know to test for that.
If you're just drinking water, then how would you know?
Yep.
Oh, my Lord.
So DuPont, I'm sure you don't like them. They're trash, right? It's proven that DuPont knew about the chemicals' negative effects on animals in the 1960s and on humans since the 1980s.
Okay, well, if you knew they affected animals, then you knew they affected people.
Correct.
Whatever.
They also developed their own safety testing lab. It was called the Haskell Lab of Industrial Toxicology to screen workers for signs of illnesses that may be tied to DuPont products. So they were internally checking because they knew what they were doing was fucked.
Right.
In the 60s, DuPont scientists conducted tests on human volunteers, quote unquote, workers, where they asked them to smoke cigarettes laced with C8 to see what would happen. 9 out of 10 of the people, obviously, in the highest dose group were noticeably ill for 9 hours with flu-like symptoms after smoking these cigarettes.
They put it directly into their lungs without telling them?
Yes. Well, they knew it was C8, but if you're at a chemical plant and you're working and the company's saying, no, we put this on pans, it's safe.
Right.
Then you're like, sure, okay.
Yeah, because I'm sure they just straight up lied to them.
Yes.
Oh, no. That's exactly like those FBI agents getting dosed with LSD.
Literally.
You can't just do that to people.
So DuPont was they were testing, right? They were testing water all the time. Samples were taken by DuPont secretly of water from the Ohio River in 1984, and they showed toxicity levels of the company 8 times higher than normal.
No way.
So that water actually made its way to the drinking water supply to that West Virginia area. And how do we know that? Because DuPont also asked their employees to bring jugs of water from their homes, schools, and local businesses to test, and then they documented it.
Wow.
So there were minutes recorded at a meeting.
So they knew.
They totally 100% knew. So there were minutes recorded at a meeting at DuPont's corporate headquarters in Delaware that year that they, in the 1980s, where they suggest a high level of concern regarding how this could affect the company's image and the bottom line.
Yeah, duh.
It is said, quote, legal and medical will likely take the position of total elimination of C8, right? That's what the notes from the meeting read. The company executives present, however, concluded that the available methods of cutting pollution were not economically attractive, so they didn't cut from that meeting. They went in knowing the facts, and they left saying, oh, well.
So... Oh my God, that's rough.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, first of all, if you're not an evil villain and you're not cackling at this story right now, imagine a company that you're in a meeting for says that we know this is going to harm people, but it's not economically attractive to do the right thing. It
was literally them looking at the scientific facts that their own scientists are bringing. They're like, meh.
Yeah. Also, they know it's infecting the drinking water of
the town,
their employees.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yes.
It's yeah, they know the town, but the town is whatever. I mean, to them probably, right?
Right.
But it's your own employees. Everybody who works there is going to die.
Right.
And then what are you going to do?
Right. In the years following that meeting, instead of slashing its use of C8, DuPont escalated production while keeping much of what they knew about the chemical's dangers obviously a secret. The company's Washington Works factory continued with its usual practice of dumping C8-laden sludge in unlined landfills. And the reason that's important, even though it doesn't matter if it's lined or unlined with how toxic the chemical was. Right. That means it is just a basic hole in the ground with no barrier between, and that's where the runoff happens and it gets in the drinking supply.
Right. Because if it's unlined, what you're saying is that it can basically leak into the water table. Whereas if it's lined, it's putting things in a plastic trash bag. Right.
And you know that it could leak.
Right.
From a trash bag. But.
Right.
So that sludge, it continued to be put into the Ohio River and pumped out C8 laced vapors from its smokestack. So remember, it's also airborne. So not only is it in the water, it's also in the air.
Oh my Lord, this is crazy.
Yes. In 1989, DuPont employees in large numbers have been diagnosed with cancer and leukemia. And they knew, right, the company knew that this was attributed to their water and their air because of C8.
Right.
So, and more of the documents that Rob discovered were like emails. And in one 2001 email, a scientist who was working with DuPont said that C8 is hard to deal with when airborne, and it could require the public to wear gas masks. It was so bad.
Oh my gosh. And they didn't do anything about it?
They didn't do anything. Another email, this time it's from the in-house counsel, Bernard Riley, who we will love to hate in 3 seconds.
I already do.
Showed that DuPont was pushing regulators to raise the levels allowed of the chemical in the air or in the water, really.
Oh my God.
So he said, quote, so far, DuPont has been saying there are safe levels, and we need to have an independent agency agree. We're hoping that it would agree to higher levels than we have been saying. If for no other reason than we are exceeding the levels we say we set as our own guideline. Mostly because no one has bothered to do air monitoring until now, and our water test has been completely inadequate.
So they're like, basically, we're already doing this, so we should try to push for doing this.
Yeah, it was literally like we have set as a chemical company boundaries. We're saying this is harmful at a certain point, but we're not near that point. Well, they knew that they were like way over that point.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we need an independent agency that we can quote saying that our levels are not bad and that we're actually under what it could be.
Basically, they're doing the whole like asking for forgiveness, not permission.
They were trying to convince an independent agency to basically lie.
So that they could get permission.
So they could keep doing what they needed to do and not have bad PR. And
also not have to pay for it.
Correct.
Cool.
So Riley's emails were great and super helpful. In one sent in to Rob, not to Riley. In one sent in August of 2000, he wrote, "This shit is about to hit the fan in West Virginia.
Oh my God.
The lawyer for the farmer finally realizes the surfactant issue, and he is threatening to go to press to embarrass us, to pressure us to settle for big bucks. Fuck him." That's what he said in this
That's a
email.
quote?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
This is tea.
I know, it's the tea. Like, if I saw that email in real life, I'd be like,
I'd be like,
can you imagine Rob in the box? He pulls this one out. He's like, gold.
Shit's about to go down.
I got gold.
Correct.
And an example of another painful experience brought on by this company is in a woman, Sue Bailey. She was, she had a son who was born with severe deformities, like half a nose, a serrated eyelid, and a detached retina and iris. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And Sue is a former DuPont employee who, you guessed it, came in close contact with C8, constantly had her job while she was pregnant.
While she was pregnant?
Yes. She was in a room, actually, where there was these giant vats of C8, which would overflow, like literally like a bubble bath out of the vats.
Yeah.
And her job was to pump that overflow out to the river.
Well, she's pregnant?
Well, she was like, it was for however long she worked, and then while she was also pregnant.
Yeah, but also Sue.
So when her son was born, she was like, oh my God, what happened? Like, is he okay? And Sue brought up her concern to DuPont because she had heard rumors of other employees. Like, there was another employee who had a child that had the same kind of deformities. And DuPont tried to blame Sue for her son's condition and the other employee as well. Nah. Instead of being like, oh, yeah, we did that.
Our bad.
But retroactively, DuPont actually took, after some of these complaints happened, they like kind of took out pregnant women or women in general from those C8 areas.
Well, I guess that's good. But like, at what cost? Like, what had to happen for that to be the case? Did they get in trouble?
Yeah. Did they get in trouble?
I want to hear everything about all the bad shit that happened to them.
So yes, they, okay. I mean, well, okay. They were in a constant legal battle for forever, right? For a really long time. A cool point of the story is here. In 2001, a class action lawsuit was brought by residents of the Ohio River Valley who had been exposed to C8. And DuPont agreed to settle and offered the plaintiffs $343 million. Yeah. But they said no to individual settlements, and they actually decided to create a C8 science panel to study the link between C8 and human disease. And they did.
Oh my God. 6
water districts could test people's blood and sue, and if, whatever the results, and they could sue DuPont if the science panel proved exposure to C8 caused any harm.
Oh, wow.
They went out into the public. They got 70,000 people to participate in the survey. This is that 7-year study I was talking about earlier that Rob, like, stuck it out through. Yeah. And this is the study that linked those 6 diseases.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
And the panel found and published in peer-reviewed journals that even at low exposure, the chemical affected the entire body. The researchers concluded that C8 posed health threats at just 0.05 parts per billion in drinking water for people who drank that water for a single year.
Oh my God.
They found that the average C8 level in blood samples from the Mid-Ohio Valley was 83 parts per billion.
And 0.05 is enough to be harmful?
Yes.
Oh my God.
The average C8 level for those living closest to the plant whose drinking water came from Ohio's Little Hockey Water District was more than 224 parts per billion, compared to the 4 parts per billion for average Americans.
4 parts per billion is still crazy.
I know.
When 0.05 is enough to be harmful, and average Americans have 4 parts per... Oh, nah.
Yep. And
Does that mean we're all dying?
Yep. And you know what's crazy is DuPont convened their own panel of scientists to determine whether any diseases were linked to C8.
Of course they did.
And the panel concluded that there was a probable link with 6 illnesses.
No way.
Like, they literally thought that they were like, we're going to get our own independent panel. And then they did, and it was like, okay, yeah. Like, kidney and testicular cancer. Oh, God. Ulcerative
colitis.
What is that word? Thyroid disease, pregnancy-induced hypertension, and high cholesterol, in addition to birth deformities that we talked about, enlarged organs, and blackened, rotting teeth.
This is what their independent panel found. They're like, could we pay some people to say nice things about us? And the people they're paying are like, nah, dog.
Not me. So
you literally can't.
In addition to the scientists being like, you done fucked up, the EPA was like after them too. And they filed a lawsuit finally, right? Like they never do anything.
Yeah.
In 2004, they charged DuPont with concealing evidence about C8's risk for more than 2 decades.
Oof.
In 2005, the company agreed to pay $16.5 million as part of a settlement agreement with EPA. That's the largest civil penalty ever in the agency's history that they've like
16 million?
Someone. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't even feel like that much.
I know.
For the EPA?
Exactly. But environmental groups, as you are expressing, argue that the fine was like a slap on the wrist to a company where a single division sold more than that amount in a single day.
Yeah. Less than a slap on the wrist. It's like a flick on the wrist.
Yeah. Literally, it's like nothing. So in a quote by the watchdog organization Environmental Working Group in their May 2015, memo, they said under the terms of the settlement, they put it out, the company wasn't even obliged to pull C8 from the market. The best the agency could negotiate was a voluntary phase out by 2015.
What does a voluntary phase out mean?
That they basically, instead of saying that they were forced to do it, that the DuPont was like, yeah, we'll just stop. We'll like phase C8 out of our processes.
Got it. Like they're volunteering to do it.
Right.
Right. Whatever.
Right. In 2017, DuPont and Chemours Co., I don't know if that's right, that's a potential DuPont merger at the time, agreed to pay $671 million in cash.
That's what I'm talking about.
To settle thousands of lawsuits that involved the leak of toxic chemicals that make Teflon. In about 3,550 personal injury claims. From that plant in Parksburg, West Virginia. That same lawyer, Rob, who led the charge, saw it all the way through to the end, getting people as much as they could, as quickly as they could, and members of the class action...
Little Rob.
I know. They also sued DuPont individually, so they were like a part of this major class action, and then they would also sue them individually, and DuPont was ordered to pay a huge chunk of money in response to those as well.
Good.
Yeah. Like there were people who got them. I read about one settlement that a woman sued them individually and she got 1.7 million.
Good for her.
Because she had cancer and like as part of her treatment, they had to like cut her body literally in half because it was like in her ribs and everything.
Oh my God.
And when she was on the stand, it took the jury like no time. They're like, yeah, you got to pay.
They literally just saw her. She like showed them the scar on her chest and they were like, all right, you're good.
You good. Yeah.
No, they did it.
So the company denied any wrongdoing during all of this.
Of course.
Like as part of the settlement, right? Of course.
That's what they always do.
But DuPont agreed to fund medical monitoring and install new water treatments, which whatever. They also agreed to phase out C8, which they replaced with the chemical Gen X, which is already turned up in water testing.
You're doing so great.
I know. Good job.
You're doing so good.
So the CDC has a National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and nearly all the people tested have PFAS in their blood. This is that chemical.
The C8 or the Gen X?
C8. And as of October 2019, the Environmental Working Group reported that 1,398 locations in 48 states have confirmed PFAS contamination.
Okay.
So literally, to your point, if you can buy stainless, cast iron, or enamel, if you can avoid the chemical manufacturers of Teflon, like if you can, the nonstick is a no-go. Like,
yeah,
manufacturers of Teflon have advised that their cookware should not be heated to extremely high temperatures.
I'm sorry, what? That's literally your only job.
They say that the coating on pans and products won't emit chemicals that could harm you under normal use, but the Environmental Working Group said otherwise. They were like, nah, any amount of this is just like super dangerous to you.
This is crazy.
I know. Like, of course we know now DuPont sucks. They suck in all the possible ways. They try to rebrand themselves with a merger with Dow. It's like Dow DuPont or whatever. And I think companies should be held responsible for knowingly and unknowingly, in my opinion, like harming the public.
Yeah.
Thank goodness they were caught. But what if they hadn't been? And this is a fuckaroo. And that's what I know about that.
This is a classic fuckaroo. That's exactly what I know about that. Why are they still selling Teflon everywhere?
So
are they?
It's like being phased. So this was in like 2017 is when the lawsuits like they finalized or whatever. But I think it's more about, I mean, really, like, could they make Teflon with chemicals and like make like one something different and have a similar chemical issue? Yes. So it's like they might not be making Teflon anymore.
Yeah.
But they are making chemicals that are just as harmful, like the Gen X or Gen Z or whatever.
Oh. Yeah, Gen X is like our parents' generation. Okay, Gen X ruins everything.
Oh, big facts.
Listen, you ruined Facebook.
Isn't it crazy?
That's crazy. Honestly, the fact that 98% of Americans have this in their bloodstream and nobody knows it. Like, I didn't know this.
Isn't it nuts?
Yes. It sounds like it should be a conspiracy.
I deadass thought when I watched this movie that it was not real. And then I Googled it and I was like, why wasn't this a bigger deal? But if you think about the impact that companies have, their lobbyists, like the chemical lobbyists.
Everybody just gets to be like a Teflon Don out there and poisoning people? No, absolutely not.
I mean, yeah.
I call bullshit on DuPont. Well, you did great. I'm
sorry I was talking so fast, listeners. I was like, y'all, I'm so mad right now. I need to tell you everything I know right now so you can stop using nonstick pans.
The people need to know.
Use cast iron.
Get your cast iron. Your grandma would be proud.
She would.
Grandmas love to use cast iron.
No, you're not wrong. If you want to check out any of my sources, we're going to list them in the notes. There's a lot of them. Just be careful, y'all, because shit is crazy, and the likelihood is it's already in your system and it's not going to go away, but we don't need to amp that up.
Oh my God. Honestly, as soon as we get done recording, I'm literally going in my living room and I'm going to watch The Devil You Know and I'm going to watch Dark Waters. Both.
Watch Dark Waters first.
Dark Waters first. Okay.
If you have a crazy story you want to share with us, or you see something in the news and you're like, what, send us a DM on our social medias.
Yeah. Send us an email, malpracticepodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear your stories.
We do, so we can uncover the crime.
Yeah, we like to uncover crime. We're a podcast about that now. We're no longer talking about mustaches.
If it's medical crime,
we'll do the time. I was just trying to rhyme.
Oh.
Also, if you're interested in, if you're sending us an email, if you're listening to this episode, if you're buying a non-stick or a non-stick pan, a cast iron, if you will.
A sticky pan.
If you're buying a pan that you're going to have to scrub and you're going to be like, these bitches.
Yeah, as you should.
When you scrub it, you're going to be mad at us, but also when you're not dying of cancer, you're going to be happy at us.
Happy at us.
While you're on Amazon looking for a new enamel pan or pot, maybe go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a little review.
Smash that subscribe button.
Smash it. Smashing.
Smash it.
Bye-bye.
Okay, go throw away your pants now. Bye.